Good afternoon, y'all, and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining us. So today's a sad day. It's because our caravan trip with Phil and Lolo and Thomas and Beverly is coming to an end. Today is their last day here, and they're packing up and they're getting ready to head home. We're going to continue on our own up to Maine, but we've had a great time exploring Fredericksburg, Big Bend, and San Marcos, Texas together. But it wasn't without some adventure and some problems. Last night we were talking about all the things we did and all the things that we had go wrong with all three of these campers, and we started laughing and decided we're gonna make a video and we're gonna share with you guys all the things that went wrong with all three of these campers on our adventures. But before we get started, let's thank today's sponsor and the current sponsor of our giveaway, Aurora Heated Jackets. Our new Aurora Heated Jackets.
Oh man.
They finally got here. And we've partnered with them so we can give away 2 of these to you guys out there. But before we talk about how to enter the contest, let's talk about what came in the bag. So these come in this neat little bag like this. Well, not really in this. They come in a box first. But when you take it out of the box, it's in this little carrying case right here. And inside, you have 1 heated jacket, the mini 5K battery, and the battery charger.
So I got the women's heated jacket. It's shark skin gray and it has 4 heating zones.
I got the heated fleece hoodie. It only has 3 heating zones, but man, feel that fleece.
I know, it looks so soft and fluffy. I love it. I'm kind of jealous.
So once you get your jackets out of the bag, it's time to put them together and turn them on. So you have the 5K mini battery here. You just press the button till it's on, and that tells you how much battery life you have. Then you open your jacket, and right here in this pocket is a cord. You plug your battery in, put it back in there, and this is how you turn it on. You see this logo right here, the Aurora logo? You press it, and it will light up saying it's on.
Oh, that's super cool.
So it has 3 different modes. It has white, which is medium heat. It has blue, which is low heat. And it has red, which is high heat. On a full charge, this battery will power this jacket on low mode for 10 hours, on medium mode for 6 hours, and on high mode for 3 hours. So another cool feature is the battery has some output ports, meaning I can charge my phone while heating myself. So you just take the battery out, you can plug your phone charger in, and now not only am I warm, my device will stay fully charged.
So I just found all my heating zones because I'm warming up now. I have one in each of my pockets for my hands, keeps me so warm. I also have one on my neck here and one on my upper back. This thing is perfect. But what I also love is that it has a detachable hood, so I can just unzip it and take the hood off when I don't need that. I have a new love in my life. Sorry, babe. This thing is so awesome. It's keeping me so warm.
I love to wear hoodies. I don't like to wear big jackets, but sometimes the hoodies I'm wearing are not heavy enough for the temperature outside. Now I have a hoodie that can turn the temperature up to make me comfortable no matter what the temperature is outside.
So when you live in an RV, space is a premium. And what I love about these heated jackets is that if you're not in a climate where you need a jacket, they come with this great little carrying case. So you can fold it up, store it away, put your battery pack in here, and you don't have to have it taking up space in your closet.
Another great thing about these jackets is when you live on the road full time, you have to carry jackets for every season, meaning we carry light jackets, medium jackets, heavy jackets, and that takes up a lot of space in our RV. This one right here can become all 3 depending on the temperature setting you choose. So it's gonna help us thin out the amount of jackets we have to carry while living full-time on the road. If you're interested in learning more about these Aurora heated jackets, check the link in the description below. Now our contest is still going on now through March 16th. We're giving away 2 classic heated jackets valued at $209 a piece. And all you gotta do to get yourself entered is head over to pavingnewfabs.com and purchase any of our merch. Any of our merch gets you entered to win one of these classic heated jackets. Once again, thanks to Aurora Heated Jackets for sponsoring this video and our current giveaway. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not wearing it today. Well, it's because I'm helping Phil and Lolo and Thomas and Beverly get packed up and get ready to go, and I don't want to get dirty. So before we get started with the list, I'm gonna let you know, I'm gonna tell you the list and exactly the order it happened on our timeline. Now let's get started. So the first thing that happened actually happened back in Phil and Lolo's hometown before the trip even started. They were supposed to be on the road at 8 a.m. to come meet us in Fredericksburg, and at 9 they called us and said they can't get the trailer to move. So the trailer brakes were locked up. We tried all kinds of things over the phone because we're 300 miles away. We even suggest just pulling the pin and putting it back in to make sure it was reset. Nothing happened. They actually unhooked their truck, hooked Mr. Thomas's truck up to see if it would change, and it couldn't move it either. What we ended up doing is we pulled the leads off the battery so it would remove the electricity from the brakes, Had them move the camper, then hooked everything back up and everything was fine. It's working now, but it was not working the day we tried to start. So far, it's been successful the whole trip. It's made the whole trip, nothing wrong with the brakes. The brakes still work, no problem. But the trip started off very slow for Phil and Lolo and Thomas and Beverly because this situation right here put them 3 hours late getting to meet us in Fredericksburg, which had them parking in the dark. All right, so the next problem happened to occur on Phil and Lolo's trailer as well. So we said they got there in the dark. When they got there, their jacks were not working correctly. Well, one works. So this jack right here works, this jack no longer moves. So we had to use this one to get the truck unhooked, and we have a process now where this one picks it up, we overshoot level, and then we lower that one down and pin it off and set the whole cover back down so that both jacks are supporting it. But right now, only this jack is working. The reason we didn't fix it is because we were afraid if we took it apart, we may make both of them not work, and they would be stuck with their truck hooked to the camper the entire trip. So right now, this is still broken. We've been managing it. But when they get home, they're gonna go take it somewhere and have it looked at and get this sorted out because it does need to be fixed. Because every time you do it, you're basically holding the entire camper up with one jack until you get this one secured. That was the only two problems we had in Fredericksburg, Texas. Then we decided to pack up and head down the road to Big Bend area, and this is where a lot of our problems started showing up. The drive out there was a long one, and it was very windy and very rough. So most of these problems happened on our travel day while we were traveling down the road. Mr. Thomas's door right here came open while we were driving. I know he has that right there. This came open and that came open. And he called me and was like, hey, my door is open, can we pull over? So we pulled over, shut the door. Not really a problem, but we can't explain why the door came open. We think because it was 50-mile-an-hour winds that we were driving in. Could have been something to do with that, but the door came open while driving down the highway. The next thing that happened to Mr. Thomas's RV also happened to mine. While driving down the road, this trim piece right here that covers these screws came out and was flapping all in the wind. We have these custom tapes right here to keep them from doing that, but it also happened to mine as well. We pulled over at the same time, and I said, I gotta fix my trim, it's flapping everywhere. And he goes, me too, mine's flapping everywhere as well. So right now, we have tape on it until he gets back home. We've actually taken the tape off ours because it only happened when the wind was blowing. That day it was very windy. It was 50-mile-an-hour winds we were driving in. So I think that had a lot to do with some of the things that were happening to these RVs. So the next thing that happened was on our break while traveling to Big Bend, and that's our slide, our main living room slide right here. So it was in at a truck stop, and I decided to go inside and grab something for the girls. Well, I stepped on the edge of the slide while I was in, and the floor separated from the wall. We have plans to fix it, but right now we have to manage it until we get there. This slide ski is destroyed, the floor is separating, and to make matters worse, we found out that this slide ski is also damaged as well. We've already repaired that once about 18 months ago, but it's broken again, and we're not sure if it broke because us trying to fix that side or manage that side put some stress on this side. But either way, we need to fix both of our slide skis and reattach the wall over there to the floor. The next thing was also a driving incident. It's back on Phil and Lolo's RV. So we got to Fort Stockton, Texas, and his hot water heater access door was open and hanging off and barely attached. So we have custom duct tape to keep it in place until they get back home. But again, I think this was due to that wind. That 50-mile-an-hour wind was really wreaking havoc on things on the outside of our RVs while we were driving. We're back at Mr. Thomas's RV, and when we arrived in Big Bend, Texas, we noticed that his spare tire was almost falling off the RV. So when we got there, his spare tire was hanging down and just swinging and bouncing everywhere. So we went ahead and picked that back up, but while we were doing it, we found this right here. This is the adjustment rod, so if your slide doesn't want to work electrically, you can put a 3/4 inch impact on this and manually bring your slides in. Except for now he can't because it's broken away from the shaft. So that's another thing that we found by accident. Didn't know it was broken, probably never would have unless you needed to move it manually. But those were two things that we found on his camper when we first arrived. So next up, Mr. Thomas is trying to be the popular one here, right, Mr. Thomas?
Absolutely.
So when we got to Big Bend, he comes over and tells me that this front part of his RV, where the front cap and the bottom meet, was separated. So there was gaps here like 3 to 4 inches big on both sides. Right now we have them screwed back together and hopefully it holds up, but he's gonna take it back to the dealer and have it looked at as to why these were separating. And not to be outdone, once we got set up, he came and told me there was another problem inside the RV. So we had a rear kitchen model with the fridge in the back. And when we got there, he goes, hey, I think my refrigerator is trying to come out of the wall and leave. Must have been a real bumpy ride down to Terlingua, Texas. because look at that. This is the trim and what holds the fridge in the wall. So, needless to say, you have an appointment with the dealer for quite a few items on this list, don't you?
Absolutely.
So we made it to Big Bend, and it's smooth sailing from here on out, right? Because you can't possibly have any more problems if you're not going on the road. Wrong. Phil and Lolo had the dreaded poo pyramid, and it was actually kind of funny. I kind of wish we would have filmed this, but you would open the valve and water would come out, but no, nothing else would come out. And if you go inside, you'd flush the toilet one time and it would say it was full, but clearly it was not full because we just drained it. They ended up having to get one of those totes, those clear giant totes, and put it underneath their valve. And there was some poking sticks going on, lots of things coming out. Things were bad. It took us 3 to 4 hours. We finally got all the stuff from inside out. And the reason it happened is because they have this Volterra waste valve right here, but they don't have an internal valve. This is the only valve that keeps their stuff inside their tank. Well, we found that it's leaking. So even though it's closed right now, all the water is leaking by, leaving nothing but the solids inside. So that's why they had the problem. So we've been making them use tons and tons of water because we don't want them to have the problem again before they get home. But we're gonna have to replace that valve to make sure from here on out, the water stays in there and prevents the poo pyramid from forming. But it was a rough morning because there was a lot of plumbing things going on here. Smells, textures, all kinds of things were happening, and it was pretty lovely. So the next thing is not RV related, but truck related. So we're exploring Big Bend National Park, and this is Thomas's truck, and this is how doors are supposed to work. You open it and you close it. Well, this door right here doesn't do that anymore. So while we were at a scenic overlook, we got out and took pictures and looked, and everything was fine. When we went to leave, the door wouldn't close. You would shut it and it would just bounce back. Shut it, bounce back. So we opened the door and we took a screwdriver and functioned that one time. Well, when we shut that door again, it now won't ever open. He's going to the dealership to figure out how to get this door open. It's like the locking mechanism somewhere in there is broken. We don't know what, but this door is permanently shut from here on out. Next up is not an RV problem, but a camping problem. So we have Pit Boss pellet grills. This is mine, it's a tabletop version, and this is Phil's. It's also a portable one, but it's a bigger version. They're both broken in completely different ways and don't really work very well if you're trying to cook something. So mine will not ignite itself. You have to use a blowtorch to ignite it. Also, it randomly shuts off during cooks for no reason at all. It gives you error codes, but then you just pull the plug and go back to cooking and it's fine. This one cooks pretty good once it's running, but it's not trustworthy as far as staying running. Phil's, on the other hand, works just fine like it's supposed to, except for one thing. If you set it to 250 degrees or even 300, whatever temperature you set it to, it fluctuates by 50 both ways. So if you wanted to cook at 250, it's gonna be going between 300 and 200. So when you're cooking with this one and this one, you have to move the stuff between the pits because this one cooks normal if it's not shutting itself off. And this one takes probably 2/3 longer because the temperature swings are so big that the average is not really working out. So you kind of have to overshoot this temperature and undershoot this temperature if you want the food to be done at the same time. Again, not an RV problem, but definitely a camping problem because when you're cooking food, you want it to just cook. You don't want to have to come out here and play science with it. All right, the next problem is at Mr. Thomas's RV, and it's down here in his basement storage. We wake up one morning and Mr. Thomas has alarms on his refrigerator.
And CO2.
That's right. And so we started looking at it and we noticed that his voltage on his battery was in the 10s. Well, we decided to go on an adventure, and when we came back, the entire RV was dead. There was no 12-volt power in the entire RV, and the battery was dead. So I said, that kind of sounds like the converter issue. Well, the converter is in a super convenient spot behind that wall. So we had to pull the wall down, get to the converter, and we found both fuses were blown. So we replaced the fuses. We actually noticed that the breaker inside was also tripped, so we tripped the breaker, changed the fuses, and everything's good to go. The bad thing is, this is the second time now this has happened to him while all being hooked up to full power, right?
Correct.
So,
absolutely.
Dealer problem?
Yes.
At least have them look at it, right?
That's right.
So our time in Big Bend came to an end, and it's time to head back towards San Antonio. It's about a 430-mile drive, and we made it here to New Braunfelsville with a problem with our truck. Now, this problem didn't happen on this trip, but it had to be repaired on this trip, so we're including it. So when we got here, we were parking the camper and we heard grinding noises from the front brakes. Well, we took it to Ford, let them have a look at it, and we actually had metal on metal. We actually had to put 2 new rotors on this truck because the inside brake pads wore down just the backing plate, and we're now gouging the rotors. Now, that didn't happen on this trip at all. That's several miles of traveling, but it's something we had to fix in order to continue with our trip because it was past the point of no return. The rotors were done, the brake pads were done. So we have brand new rotors up front and brand new brake pads on all 4 corners now. Also, during that drive from Big Bend back to New Braunfels, Mr. Thomas had another problem with his RV, and it involves his underbelly. So we're driving and he goes, "Hey man, my underbelly is flapping down there." So we got to looking, and it is in fact trying to come off. And when you look at it, you notice there are no screws holding it up. They tried to use glue and some silicone or some sort of adhesive to hold it in place, and there's actually no screws in the frame rail into the side of the chloroplast. So we're actually gonna be fixing that today so we can make it home without it falling off, but this is another item that the dealership's gonna have to deal with when he gets back. All right, so we made it to New Braunfels, Texas, and we think all problems are over. Well, it's starting to get cold again, and we woke up one morning freezing, and that's because our furnace is now not working. We haven't fixed it yet. That's probably the next video for you guys. But it's still getting in the 30s at night and we have no furnace in our RV. We think we know what the problem is, but we're gonna dig into it a little deeper and we're gonna probably solve it ourselves, and we'll bring you along the way. But now our furnace is not working. Not to be outdone, because apparently Phil wouldn't have enough problems, right Phil?
Nothing but problems.
We're sitting here one day in New Braunfels and he goes, "Hey man, I have no more lights in my RV." Kind of sounds like the same problem Mr. Thomas is having. Except for one thing. We know where Mr. Thomas's converter is. We didn't know where Phil's converter was.
No, but we hunted.
So we went outside, opened up every basement door, looked everywhere. I was actually tracing wires in the frame, and he pulls out a user manual from 1997, and apparently they cared back then, because the manual says the converter is right after the refrigerator plug. So we come over here, and this is the refrigerator. We pulled that down. It wasn't under there, but behind there, below the stove, is where Phil's converter is. And you know what the problem was? It wasn't the fuses. Somewhere along the way, the wires came out of the converter, so there was no wires hooked to the rest of the system. Tighten everything back up, good to go. Phil has power. And now we're back over at our RV. So somewhere in the last few days, our gray tank, more specifically our shower, not the gray tank, the shower in our master will not drain. I've been using the plunger. I don't know what's going on. I think it might have something to do with our recent issue where we got sick and lots of things went down that gray tank that probably weren't supposed to be. But for some reason right now, our shower in our master is draining very slowly. Probably gonna have to do something with the P-trap, figure out what's clogging it up, because when you use the plunger, it'll drain really good for a second, but then it goes back to being a very slow drain. Almost makes you think the gray tank is backed up, but it's not, because it flows freely from every other faucet. It's just the shower that's having a slow draining problem. It's been a great 30 days, 1,500 miles, and roughly 20 problems later, our caravan trip is over. Now, we had a great time. It was an adventure, but it just goes to show you, no matter how new or old or what brand of camper you have, you're gonna have problems if you use it. So that is a 2020 Durango. This is a 1997 Prowler, and that is a 2020 Grand Design. All 3 of us experienced problems on this trip. Now, most of them are small and easy to fix. Some are gonna require a trip to the dealership, some we can fix ourselves. But just goes to show, if you're out there having fun, there's gonna be bumps along the way and things you have to repair. But that, I think, is what makes part of the adventure. Now we're gonna help Phil and Lolo, Thomas and Beverly, get packed up. Yo ain't gotta go home, but you can't stay here. Are you already crying? Are you already crying?
I'm actually just tearing up a little.
It's not crying, it's just tearing up.
It's the reason I have these on.
Look at Caden, he ain't crying.
Hey.
Bye, Phil.
Bye, Mr. Watson.
Hey, did you say goodbye to your chair?
Oh my goodness. Oh, buddy. Sure you don't want to go with me?
It's gonna be a while before you see your chair again.
I know it.
It's okay, me and the chair are gonna have lots of conversations without you.
Keep it greased.
Mr. Thomas?
Been fun.
Yep. Oh, you are crying.
It's gonna be a long time.
It's not really. You can hook this trailer up and come meet us.
I don't know about that. We might not be able to unhook it.
By the way, I've already filmed the video on all the things that broke, so y'all can't break anything on the way home. We can't add it.
Good.
Try to make it home without any more problems.
Good. That's our mission.
Everybody say bye. Bye. I'm sorry, that's Bob Ross. Bob Ross says bye. Here goes Thomas. Look at those tree branches.
What's the chain one sound? What we do for our arms?
Y'all want to do it? Do it. Tell him.
He'll do it. Let him get past the rocks first. Make sure he doesn't scare Buddy. All right. Okay, bye. Love y'all. Bye.
Love y'all. Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Do train horn. All right, guys, the caravan is over and we had a great time. We hope you enjoyed hanging out with us on our month-long adventure with Phil and Lolo and Thomas and Beverly. Now remember, our Aurora heated jacket giveaway is going on right now, so head over to pavingnewpaths.com and get yourself some merch and get yourself to enter to win your very own Aurora heated jacket. We love you. See you in the next one.